and Hard with your hosts, both Matt Tyler and Will Burke.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our final episode of Fast and Hard this spring, 2022. This is episode number 13, and even Baker's dozen. What do you think, Will? Do you think we'd ever get here?
I, truth be told, had no idea. I mean, I never anticipated even having a podcast at all going into this semester, and then when we got it started, I just didn't want to stop.
I know the feeling. I don't know what I'm going to do with my Monday afternoons when we've been able to get together, or Monday evenings when we've been able to get together because of what we've got going on baseball-wise, but there will be a little void. I will do my best to fill it with baseball-related activity this summer and hopefully go from there. And maybe we'll take a look at doing this again in the fall. We'll figure something out, all right? But today, ladies and gentlemen, is episode 13, and we got a good one for you. We saved what I would think might be the best for last. We've got as our special and final guest, Jay Rokeach, who has been kind enough to be our MC at our first pitch dinners for the first, 3 out of 5 years that we've had them. COVID took its nasty toll, and we did one virtually, and we didn't need an MC for that. And then this year we had him set up, teed up, ready to go, and of course COVID canceled that one. So he's the voice of South Florida. A gentleman from Brooklyn, New York, found his way to the University of Miami in 1968 and has been the voice of the Miami Hurricanes for 54 years. He's also done some PA work for the Marlins, the Panthers, the Dolphins, just if you name it, he does it. And he's got that sultry voice that just creates atmosphere. And, I've seen him almost get kicked out of college baseball games for instigating the crowd with either music or I don't know if I shared this with you, Will, and I'll share it with our audience. Our dugout was the third base dugout at the University of Miami, and the press box was located over the first. And when there was a pitching change, Jake would, reach out of his press box, which set on top of the first base dugout, and he would always put like a shepherd hook out there and try to hook the pitcher coming off the field. It's kind of just poking a little bit of fun at the guy, Well, there's probably 10 feet of height between the two, but we had these rafter tails that would extend beyond the dugout. And one night, some guy jumped up on the rafter tails and was going to get that shepherd hook, and just couldn't pull himself up quite high enough. And it was the most tantalizing thing I'd ever seen in my life, and funny as well. But, if ESPN had been broadcasting back then, it would have been one of the top 10 plays of the night, trust me. But he has just been a gem to know and to become a brother with. So we're going to listen to a few of his rants and antics and just kind of go from there. And then, of course, Michael Melnik will wrap up the Energized Approach tonight with the final installment, which includes the source fun. And
gotta have fun.
You gotta have fun in anything you do. And Will, I hope you've had as much fun as I have this spring with you. I've watched you blossom from a guy that barely said a word to now one that can do a full-blown interview, and I'm proud to sit next to you and look forward to our next life together, maybe in a booth somewhere. So keep me on your call list there, buddy.
Definitely will.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. First, our guest will be Jay Rokeach, and then we'll close it out with Mike today, and then go from there. Thanks for listening, folks. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. We'll be back with you in just a second, but right now, a little word from our sponsor. This segment's brought to you by Towson alum Chris Russ, your real estate specialist. You can find Chris at chrisruss.com or call him at 410-908-7723. Chris specializes and takes great pride in helping others relocate to new towns, as he once did over a dozen times while pursuing his dream to play Major League Baseball with the Texas Rangers. With many buyers flooding the area due to the great schools, strong job economy, and a robust defense industry, Chris has teamed up with lenders that specialize in VA loans and a home inspector that served our military proudly. Whether you are looking to commute to Howard County, Fort Meade, Baltimore, Bethesda, or Washington, D.C., Chris is familiar with the communities and the commuter locations that will serve you best. That's Chris Russ at chrisruss.com, 410-908-7723. Another proud TU alum. That's Chris Russ at chrisruss.com, your real estate specialist.
Okay, so going off of this past week, Tuesday at Richmond, or Tuesday against Richmond here at home, an 8-4 win. Let's start breaking that down a little bit. So 9 hits, 8 runs. Not too bad.
Not too bad at all. We finally put together a nice, well-rounded game of offense. And, you know, it is in there. That lineup that we have is somewhat fearsome. You know, I mean, if you look at the power numbers that squad has put together this year, it's really impressive. And we got a second chance in the first inning, you know, and Burke Camper spotted us a 4-run lead in the bottom of the first off of a guy that was throwing low 90s. And, you know, that ball that he hit was an absolute, no doubt, nuke for the Grand Slam. And I don't care what they say, that is a major deflator. You win by the Grand Slam, you lose by the Grand Slam. It happened to us yesterday. You know, those types of home runs are just major league wind out of sail type momentum swings. So Burke gave us a good shot against Richmond, and then we were able to add to it with Chandler Castleberry. I mean, what a day he had, you know. So that was really fun to see as well. I've said it before. That's probably one of the most tooled up guys I've ever had the opportunity to coach.
So that first home run in the third wasn't the only home run from Castleberry that game, correct?
That's correct. He had a multi-home run game that day, and it was both were just, I mean, the second one, I'm not sure what TrackMan had, and maybe I should pull it up for us, but I bet you that thing went 450 or beyond. It was just a thing of beauty. So I know that he himself has really wanted something like that, but it was a bomb, you know. So good for him.
Yep, and let's go from there, transition it over to this past weekend away at Elon. Starting on Friday, a 5-4 loss, very, very close game.
Very, very close game all the way around. Both teams played extremely well. We had a couple opportunities that would have taken a 2-out base hit to drive in a run to put us ahead and just didn't get it done. And then in the bottom of the ninth, you lose it in the fashion that we lost it in. And, you know, there's certain finger pointing and things of that nature. And I understand the frustration because we all were there. But, you know, the play was correct. If I had a chance to do it again, I'd do it exactly the same way. You know, Pekalunas has got a great slider, a pretty good changeup, and his worst pitch is his fastball. But with Coulihan hitting runners on first and third, 1 out, he had already taken 2 breaking balls to right field for 2 doubles that day. And why did I think he was going to do anything different? You know, he wasn't up there to pull the baseball. Everything that we had in every chart that we had seen was his ability to go the other way. So we just didn't think that was a very good match for Jake. So we walk him, and then Jake gets underneath the slider and unfortunately hits Discernia, you know, in the leg, and we lose it with a walk-off hit by pitch. Well, if you remember back, we lost the conference tournament game last year in a walk-off hit by pitch. Those things happen. I mean, it just, that's why college baseball is so exciting, you know. I mean, Elon, don't kid yourself. They're good. I mean, they've got a number of their pitching staff in the national leaders of ERA, wins, strikeouts to walk ratio, whip. I mean, whatever you want to call it, they've got that. We beat their Saturday guy, who's among the league leaders in wins, ERA, strikeouts, and then we faced. That's their Saturday. Their Sunday guy is the number 5 guy in the national leaders for ERA.
Wow.
Yeah, so, people are sitting back going, well, but it's Elon. Yeah, but it is Elon. They've lost 11 games this year. They've lost 11 games because they can't put it together offensively. So we did one night, they did yesterday, and we knew we were piecemealing it on Sunday to try and get through it. But Friday night set the tone. That was a game that any team could win, and we just didn't get the job done.
Going off Friday into Saturday, a 12-6 win, there was a lot more, I think, for that game that maybe not necessarily didn't, or that momentum of being so close from Friday was able to just carry over into Saturday. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. We had a job not done mentality with us on Saturday. The energy level was high. The steadfastness was high. Hey, we're going to get this thing done. We're going to make it work for us. And you look at how we came out of the gate against Edgerton, and it's incredible. I mean, that kid was throwing low 90s, touching 94, 95, and we just did not give in. I mean, God love him. I mean, it was as good a game as we're going to play. We didn't exactly set the world on fire in the first, but boy, did we in the second. I mean, it was a 7-run outburst in the second against a very good pitcher, and one that we hadn't done that to in a while. So that was good. But look how we scored that first game. I've talked to you before, or first run of that game. I've talked to you about freebies, right? And how important freebies are. So Nolan Young gets on with an error 5. So the third baseman doesn't make the play. A substituted third baseman. So in other words, the same guy did not play Saturday that played on Friday. First ball hit to him, makes an error. Some would have said that could have been a base hit. I certainly thought it was. But they called it an error. 1 freebie. How does Nolan get to second base? A dirt ball read. That means the pitcher throws a ball in the dirt, bounces off the catcher, he goes and advances to second. That's a wild pitch. That's a freebie. Then what happens? Well, he throws it into center field on a pickoff. So now Nolan's at third base, 1 out. And Dickerson goes 0-2, 1-2, and then hits a sacrifice fly to right field that Nolan scores. And then McLaughlin comes up and strikes out. We don't get a hit. We don't score a run if they don't help us. If they don't freebie our guy all the way around to third. Freebie to first, freebie to second, freebie to third. Sacrifice fly. So it goes all the way back to how many teams beat us, or how many times did we beat ourselves? So they gave us a 3 freebie cushion right then. And then what did we do? We go out there in the top of the first, and we do the same thing. Or we don't do the same thing. We make them earn it. They've got to have 2 hits to score 1 run. Okay, we'll do that. We'll take that. I'll take that anytime, because I know that the hitting will sooner or later slow down. You know what I mean? But the freebies have got to stop. So overall, I've said it before, 7 to 10 freebies win a baseball game. You know how many freebies we gave up that night when we won 12-6? 11. 1 over the amount that, boom, it could get dicey. Do you know how many they gave up? 13. So we won the freebie war. We won the battle of hits. We won the battle of runs. We won the battle of errors that day. And when you do that, it gives you a much better chance to win a baseball game. And the other thing that we talked about doing that day, which Coach Nation, I credit him with this, I think it was really, really cool, was let's start with a mindset of playing your man up. So right fielder plays the right fielder. How'd you do? Did you beat him? If you didn't help us today. Relief pitcher to relief pitcher. Did you beat him? If you didn't help us today. Catcher to catcher. Did you beat him? So we went all the way around that particular field of play the next day. I went home and I actually applied the theory to it of hits and runs and RBIs and errors and plays and assists and putouts and all of that. Strikes, balls, walks, hits, earned runs, all of the things for the pitching side of things. Offensively, we were 6-3. We outplayed 6 of their guys. 3 of their guys outplayed us. On a pitching perspective, we outplayed the starter, we outplayed the first reliever, and then for the rest of the game, our relief was even with their relief. So we won that battle 2-0. We look at that. That's a pretty neat way to do it if you can kind of itemize it, shrink it down to just mano-a-mano and see what happens. It didn't work that way for us on Sunday. We were the team that made the boots. We were the ones that gave the mental errors. We let fly balls drop. We ran into center and left field on Sunday. And Sunday is always the tough day in that league. So for Elon to have a Sunday starter with a 1.12 ERA, 5th in the country, pretty good dude, man. Pretty good staff.
I was going to talk about Sunday. I mean, you've talked a little bit about it already, and you said it pretty much right on the head. I mean, there were a lot of freebies on Sunday, and the hits. When you look at hits for Towson and Elon on Sunday, Elon had 12, Towson had 11. It was just who was able to convert those hits into runs, and unfortunately it was Elon that day.
One thing that a lot of our listeners are not aware of is that particular day started off with a bang because Angelo Santangelo was our starting pitcher that day, and he first start we just felt like he would give us the best chance to get out of the box, and we didn't know how long we'd be able to have him. He got ground ball, then a ground ball, and then he took Decernia to a 2-2 count or 3-2 count, and he threw a great pitch, and Decernia swung, but it was a check swing, and we're in the third base dugout. He's a left-handed hitter. We could see it. And the third base umpire, the home plate umpire, asks for help, and that guy goes, "No, he did not." And I mean, if the kid hits it, it's a double off the wall. Clearly a swing and a miss. And then D'Lo, to his defense, now he's got to throw extra pitches. Well, it's 84 degrees out, and I mean, it's humid. So he's already pumping, and God love him, man. I mean, that would have been the one where if he could have got the next guy out, it would have been great, and we would have, rolled. But it didn't happen. He gave up a hit. Then he hit a guy. And then, of course, Granatel goes deep, and I mean, it was a no-doubter when he threw the ball. It was hit extremely well. So that's why I said you win by the grand slam and you lose by the grand slam. So the one good thing from Sunday that came out of there was our guys didn't quit. And I mean, even though we made mistake after mistake after mistake on Sunday, we just didn't quit. And I'll take that kind of effort because college baseball is crazy, wacky. You know it, and I do.
Oh, yeah.
And at any given time, we had that thing whittled down to like 3 runs, and we had them scared, but then we just couldn't get a 0 when we needed it. They answered back 4-0, then it's 5-0, then it's 5-2, then it's 5-3. Then they score 2, make it 7-3. Then they score 2, make it 9-3. Then we score 3, make it 9-6. In the 8th, they're scared. They're thinking, uh-oh, and then we give up 2 in the bottom of the 8th. So, it's a game that'll drive you crazy and provide you the most enjoyment of your life.
Well, hopefully it will also provide a lot of, that desire to, just even, I guess, pull more things together. I mean, we have a tough series coming up at home, the final series of the year, College of Charleston.
Tough. They sit on top of our league, and rightfully so. They lost the first series out of the box, and then I think they reeled off like 17 or 18 straight. So they are a team to be reckoned with. They're a national, they're getting votes for top 50 in the country right now. So they're playing it at a very, very high level. It'll take some good baseball, and maybe it'll take them looking forward to the conference tournament. So all I'm worried about our guys this week is what kind of effort we bring to the table. To me, this particular week will show a lot in regard to the character of the player. We're not playing for anything except for pride, and to me, that's important. Each game that I suit up and I walk out on that field, I play to win. I don't care if I'm 1-55 or 55-1. There's no difference in my mindset, and I hope I have at least extended that to and through our players. So come watch us play this week. As you said, we'll cap the season with Senior Day on Saturday. There are a number of seniors and guys that are expiring out of eligibility that will be leaving us after Saturday's game, and we're excited to send them off in the right way. Hopefully it's on a good foot, and we take a couple games from the College of Charleston.
Yep, and those games are Thursday at 3, Friday at 3, and Saturday at 1.
Come see the Tigers close out the season this year. We'll be back with you in just a second, but right now a little word from our sponsor. Hey, Will, we picked up another sponsor tonight.
All right, who is it?
Advanced Collision in Beltsville, Maryland. Serving cars, buses, fleets, RV, recreational vehicles, and emergency vehicles. They upfit in the Washington, D.C. and the Baltimore areas. Advanced Collision LLC excels at providing paint, dent repair, and auto body work services for your automobile. They use the best products available today for your automobile, and they only use certified, skilled, highly trained technicians backed by state-of-the-art equipment on your repair. And for a couple months, the Jungle Cat and his family kept those techs in business. They offer custom paint and design, professional body work, and repair services for all types of cars, trucks, buses, and recreational vehicles. So if you have a vehicle that needs repaired, do what the Jungle Cat does. Call 301-595-9377 to schedule an appointment. Advanced Collision, your best bet when it comes to automotive repair. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Fast and Hard for our final episode 12.
13.
Yeah, lucky 13. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? And I saved the best for last. For those of you that don't know, I went to the University of Miami, and when I was there, I had an opportunity to forge a friendship with the voice of the Hurricanes, one Mr. Rokeach, and I have followed his career forever. It seems like we are still good friends, great buddies, and truly brothers. And Jay has been very instrumental in the development of our program, coming up here all the way from Miami to host our first pitch dinners in January's that we have had in the past. Well, every live one we have been the benefactor of, Jay running the mic for us and emceeing the show, and it's just been a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful experience for everybody involved in our program. And I'd like to welcome this evening to the show Mr. Jay Rokeach from the University of Miami. Jay, how you doing?
Well, thank you, Matt, for the kind words. And I'm doing. I'm here in South Florida. I don't have a game today. The University of Miami is off until tomorrow night, and then we have a big weekend series with Notre Dame. But basically, somebody who loves college baseball, and I'm proud of the fact that you're the skipper of the Tigers, the Towson, and I'm more than happy when I can to be able to lend assistance to different college baseball programs and try to help them raise some money. And so if I was able to come up and MC your banquet, it's something that I certainly enjoyed, look forward to, and hopefully we can do it again. And now that COVID is behind us, hopefully, and hopefully we'll start having dinners again and enjoying the company of lots of college baseball fans.
Well, for those of you that don't know, ladies and gentlemen, Jay went to the University of Miami in 1968 from Brooklyn, New York, and I'll let him bring up, or tell you all about the past. But just to make sure you understand who we're talking about the voice of South Florida. I mean, if it's athletically related in any way, shape, or fashion, from sports shows, talk shows, emceeing, PA announcing. He's done the PA for the Miami Dolphins, for the Florida Panthers, for FIU basketball, volleyball, soccer, numerous Division IIs and 3 sports. He was the voice of the Orange Bowl for so long. Correct me now, 5 national championship games you called?
Well, I was involved with all the 5 Hurricane football national championships. In other words, they were all achieved while I was the stadium voice of the Orange Bowl. And most amazingly was that the Hurricanes had a home winning streak of, I want to say, 58 consecutive home victories that spanned 9 seasons. So from, basically the 80s, we didn't lose a home game at the University of Miami in almost 9 years. And I was very, very fortunate to, have a great seat for many of the Hurricanes' greatest victories in football. And so it's something that certainly looks good on the resume, and I'm very, very proud of the accomplishments of the University of Miami and its football program during that time period. But I certainly am a much bigger and better supporter of the Hurricane baseball program. That's the program that I've given so much of my time and effort over the years. I've been the stadium voice of Hurricane baseball for 54 seasons. So that's a crazy run, and during that time I was also, as you said, working for several other teams, and I was also the first stadium voice of the Florida Marlins franchise. From 1993 to 1997. So I was able to even be the stadium voice of the Florida Marlins' first World Series championship in 1997. The Marlins, who have actually been just a mediocre franchise at best throughout their creation, they've won 2 World Series championships in 1997 and then in 2003. So congratulations to them. And luckily, again, I was in the seat to be able to be involved with a Game 7 in the 1997 World Series when the Marlins beat Cleveland. And it was a momentous evening, a momentous season, and something that I'll never forget, to be involved with the big league World Series and to be able to say that I was the stadium voice of the World Series champion Marlins.
Well, I looked over at Will, and he and I both are ear to ear with just big grins. And, it's an honor to speak with you, Jay, and I know you know that. I don't take our friendship for granted whatsoever. I do realize who I'm talking to, but would you share with my audience how it all got started, man? I mean, I think your story is incredible.
Well, I appreciate that, Matt. Again, I don't know if it's incredible, and we'll try to give the short version of it. Basically, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and I was a student manager for my high school basketball team, which was Franklin D. Roosevelt High School in Brooklyn, New York. I graduated from Brooklyn, New York. I knew I wanted to go away to school, and I decided that I was going to go to the University of Miami. It so happens that I also had applied to Arizona State, and I had also applied to Florida State. It just so happens that I was accepted to Arizona State. I was accepted to the University of Miami. I was not accepted to Florida State. Therefore, I've never liked Florida State. and I had never visited Arizona from Brooklyn. I had never visited Florida from Brooklyn. And it just seemed like Florida was closer to Miami than was Arizona, so I came to the University of Miami. And then, of course, as just a freshman, I was not into fraternities. I was into sports, and realizing that I was never going to be playing sports, I wanted to be involved with, one of the University of Miami athletic programs. And I first went to see the basketball coach, and the basketball coach and his team were practicing, and I was attracted to the basketball program because, again, I had worked basketball for my high school as a student manager and then as an announcer. But what really made it attractive was that the Hurricanes had some really nice road trips back in the days for basketball, and they had a nice road trip. They were going to Hawaii, and they were going to California, and I said, well, that would be very, very nice to get involved with basketball and to be able to hook up on those trips. As it turns out, the basketball program did not need any assistance, did not need a student manager, and on my way back to my dormitory, I stopped at what was the baseball field back then at the University of Miami. I met the head coach, who was named Ron Fraser. He was probably one of the most well-known and respected baseball coaches in the history of the game. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. He was nicknamed the Wizard of college baseball, and he did so much for the game that's another story for another day. But he did need help, and as a result, about an hour later, I was in the team locker room washing uniforms, and I became the team manager. And shortly after that, that was in the fall of 1968, and then in the spring of 1969, I said and I inquired about becoming the baseball team's public address announcer. And they certainly did need somebody because the games were played in the afternoon. Didn't have big crowds, but that's how it all started. And then from there, I actually became the public address announcer for Hurricane football. And then I became the public address announcer for Hurricane basketball. And then I got the job as the public address announcer for the Marlins. And then I got the job as the public address announcer, for the Florida Panthers hockey team. And then I also serve as the press box announcer for Miami Dolphin games. And as you said, I work for numerous other colleges and lots of different high schools. I do public address work for probably 5-6 different high schools in South Florida. And there's lots of days where I could start the afternoon at a high school game at 3:30. And then get that game in and then head over to the University of Miami for a 7 o'clock college game. So, and then, as you said, I also serve as a master of ceremonies at dinners. I do auctions and golf tournaments. And I have a good job. I have a lot of fun in my jobs.
And for those of you that don't know, we had a large contingency that traveled with us to the University of Miami this particular spring for a 4 game set with Miami. And everyone to the man said, "Oh my God, is that the guy that was our MC at our first pitch dinner?" And I said, "Yeah, same guy." And they're like, "He's phenomenal. What an incredible voice." And I remember as a walk-on freshman at the University of Miami, coming out, meeting everybody in the fall, meeting you for the first time, making it through the rounds of cuts with Bertman and Frazier, and then getting to play with the varsity team that spring. And I remember sitting there on opening night and just in total, I was mesmerized by what I was witnessing. And you, my friend, have become what I would call the backbone, the instigator, whatever accolade you want to put. Miami baseball is not Miami baseball without Jay Rokeach.
Well, thank you, Matt. That's, again, very nice compliment. And I guess if you've done something for as long as I've done it, people have just become so accustomed to hearing my voice that on the rare occasion that I have to miss a game to do something else that might be important to me, and it doesn't happen very often that I miss a game. People seemingly, just can't really. It's just it's a weird atmosphere when they don't hear my voice in the background. It's sort of just the background to the Hurricane baseball program, and I hear lots of nice compliments, and it's always appreciated. And I hear, dads who tell me that they've just heard me introduce their kids, and they listened to me back in 25 years ago when I introduced them, and it's always nice. You don't really appreciate it enough, and I just take it for granted because I'm just sort of saying people's names and trying to make every event a fun event for people who are at the ballpark. So when you hear the feedback from many different people through many different generations, it really makes you stop and think and say, well, it's nice to hear. And on the occasion that they give you that title of legend, which way too many people are given. He's a legend. She's a legend. They're legends. Boy, too many legends, But again, if you do something for as long as, and I haven't been fired from that many jobs, then I guess I'm doing it fairly well. And, people are fairly content with me doing that particular job. And, so I'm thankful that I'm still able, to continue to work and get to and from different events, and that I'm, healthy enough, to be able to continue. And I'd like to be able to continue for as long as I can physically do that. And hopefully nobody will tell me to go away before that.
Oh, I don't think that'll happen. But I know we've talked to you for a while, but I got two more questions. All right. And obviously we all owe a great deal to Coach Frazier. I'm not where I'm at without having an opportunity to have played for the man. You're probably not where you're at without having an opportunity to work with him and for him. I know what obviously I got to play for him, and you were along for those rides everywhere we went. You were with us. In fact, you and I rode in a private plane a couple times, I think, with Mr. Harold. But one of the events that stand out in my mind was was it $10,000 a plate dinner or $5,000? What was it?
Well, it was $5,000, but back in the day, that was a pretty hefty price tag, So inflation would cause you to say that it was $10,000 a plate. But back when Ron Frazier held his dinner on the diamond on the infield of Marklight Stadium on the campus of the University of Miami, that was quite an unusual thing. And he brought in chefs from across the country. He turned the third base dugout into a functioning kitchen. And this was as high of an end of a dinner as you could possibly attend. People attended in black tux dinner, attire, and there were numerous different, dishes served, and it was an amazing dinner, an amazing evening to raise money for the program, the baseball program at the University of Miami. And what was even more unusual was that while these people paid $5,000 a plate to have dinner on the diamond, Ron Frazier then went and he opened the grandstand and he sold tickets to people who wanted to come and watch people eat dinner on the diamond, and he served those people hot dogs during the course of the dinner. So it was, again, he actually sold people tickets to watch people eat dinner, on the middle of a baseball field, and this was just one of his crazy things, but he was like the P.T. Barnum. I mean, that's why we gave him the nickname of the Wizard of College Baseball. He was like Bill Veeck, very, very imaginative, and he had a great staff around him, marketing people and a mascot and a public address announcer who could all put everything together to make it one great evening, and back in the day, they brought in the San Diego chicken, and they did income tax night where people sat on top of a dugout, you brought your income tax, and accountants would file their income tax, for people before the deadline. and there was bathing suit day with the University of Miami Batgirls and Sugar Canes, what they call themselves. So, and there were trips to nowhere where people came packed with luggage. And depending upon if they had a lucky number, they won a trip to New York. And they were whisked away in a limousine, right from the baseball field to be taken to the airport to fly to New York City, for a trip that, just a surprise trip. So, giveaways of old beat up cars and, money scrambles and the list would go on and on. It was just, quite a show every single night at the ballpark at the University of Miami.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I'm sure that helps out quite a bit for people to understand where we're coming from. My last question for you, big fella. You ready?
Sure.
What would you tell your 21-year-old self if you could?
I would, with absolutely no thought to this question, because you're just posing it to me right now, I would say, J-Ro, hang on, because what you don't know is you're a kid from Brooklyn who loves sports, who loves the Dodgers, who's been able to experience many, many wonderful sports events, has been behind the microphone for incredible national championships and world championships, and you're going to enjoy your ride in regards to your career. And just so sit back, enjoy it all, and just enjoy the ride.
There you go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's Jay Rokeach, the voice of South Florida, and God knows everything else, man, that surrounds baseball and sports in general and life in general. Jay, thank you very much for being our guest this evening. Couldn't do it without you, man. Really, really love you, man. You take care of yourself, okay?
Matt, thank you, and thank you to all the nice folks from the Tigers of Towson, and I hope to be able to visit again in late January of 2023 and kick off the next Towson baseball season.
You got it, my man. Take care.
All right, Matthew. Be good.
Be good. We'll be back with you in just a second, but right now, a little word from our sponsor. Hey, well, it looks like we've got a new sponsor, and the Jungle Cat would like to thank the fine team at Capital Seaboard, the top distributor of fresh produce and seafood in the Mid-Atlantic region. Capital services the top chefs in restaurants, hotels, caterers, and kitchens from Philly to Richmond. They're a chef-driven, highest in quality company, proudly serving the region with over 90 vehicles delivering 6 days a week. And thanks very much for that sample of lump crab meat. Can't wait to dive into that after tonight's show. What do you think, Will? You ready to try some?
I'm ready.
Great. Well, thanks again to the people at Capital Seaboard for their fine and continued sponsorship. Ladies and gentlemen, as I promised in episode 13, Will was kind enough to remind me it's not 12, it's 13. Lucky Baker's Dozen 13. We've got our final installment of the Energized Approach with Michael Melnik for today's last episode. And for those of you that haven't been following us, we've covered 9 energy sources that make up the Energized Approach. Well, today we're going to be covering my favorite. It's a 3-letter word. It starts with F and ends with N. And for those of you that can't figure that out, it is fun. And I used to say that Laura and I put the fun in dysfunctional. So I'm going to let Melnik put the fun in the Energized Approach. Mr. Melnik, welcome back for our final show. I'm not putting pressure on you, buddy, but you better knock this one out of the park. Energized Approach, final energy source, fun. What are you trying to add to the approach with this?
Well, first of all, nice to be back again. Thanks for applying the pressure. But the truth is, if it doesn't go well, I don't have to come back. So it's, that's not, that doesn't worry me too much. But the thing about fun, and I think you alluded to this in the beginning as you were kind of kicking this off, I also have been all about fun. I'm like, what if there was a choice? And I'll say this when I go to companies and I'm doing work with them, and I'll say, I'm getting ready to do some training for your people, or we're getting ready to kick off a new program, and I'm going to give you a choice: fun or not fun? Pick one. And they'll go, well, I don't want to choose. And I'm like, well, then you just did by not choosing.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't think I want to sit through this program based on your choice. And part of the issue is, and fun gets a little bit of a bad name because there is this perception that it makes it less important if it's fun. That if your nose is to the grindstone and your teeth are gritted and your sweat is pouring down and you're laboring intensely, that somehow you are being more productive than if you are now having fun and doing the same exact thing. And I say to folks, look, if I'm going to have somebody, let's say, work on my house or work in my yard or do whatever, and I've got to get a whole bunch of work done in a short period of time, and I have two places where I can go to find workers. I can go to a funeral home and grab people that are sitting in a funeral, or I can go to a birthday party. Because when I walk into those two rooms, I'm going to see very different levels of energy. And fun is not balloons and bells and whistles and poster, just and celebration, which we tend to think of when we think of fun. Fun means were the energy sources present that made this leaning towards the positive side of an experience rather than the negative side of an experience. And I think what we forget is we do get to choose. We do get to influence that. And what the 9 energy sources have been building up to is if I say to an organization, because sometimes they'll bring me in and they'll go, oh, we're having a big pizza party for all of our employees. And then I talk to the employees and the employees go, they're not committed to any of our programs. The communication here is terrible. They're inconsistent in everything they do. They don't include us in anything. They're not flexible. They start nailing all of these energy sources that they're not doing. And then they go, and for some reason, they think in the absence of the other 9 energy sources, that now throwing a pizza party is going to make up for that. You can't do fun in the absence of the other 9 energy sources because it doesn't work. It looks like window dressing. Rather than when I look at even these, I look so forward to these weekly connections with you. I would say absolutely these are fun for me, but there's a history of commitment and communication and inclusion and flexibility and all that stuff. And we are standing on the shoulders of that. And that's where a lot of the pleasure comes from. If I thought, I don't know if he's committed to what we're talking about, he's never asking me any questions, he's not including me or whatever, and I would walk away from it going, that was exhausting and that wasn't fun, and I'm glad it's over.
I hear you. And you're right. A lot of people misconstrue fun for not working hard. And I think when I think of fun as the energy source, if I apply it to the field, if we're laughing and we're having a good time and we're making the plays and stuff like that, some innocent bystander has 2 choices. Wow, they look like they're having fun. And then the other guy's going, yeah, but they're not accomplishing anything because they're not focused, and shame on them. I mean, I think you can have both, focus and fun and do it at such a high level that, it does survive. It provides a purpose for the people that are involved in any activity. And I think what you just said is, if you went and you said, okay, I have fun or not fun as a choice, which one would you take? And there's not a human being alive that would say, well, I'm going to go for the not fun crowd. I don't want to have fun. It's not my style. I'm set back. I'd rather cry, than come on. You're not being honest with yourself. Everybody wants to have a little bit of fun. And if it takes the other 9 energy sources to get you there, then why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you be a part of that? Why wouldn't you buy in? And if so, if and when you do, you can experience fun. Once you've experienced it, don't you want to have it again, and again and again and again?
And it is, and it's contagious. It's again, if you are walking down the hall and you hear laughter and stuff coming out of a room, that's typically the room you are thinking, I wish I was in that room, or I'd like to go be in that room. But if I think, if you think about things like baseball, in your world, winning is fun, right? Making a great play is fun. But guess what? You didn't wake up yesterday or born yesterday suddenly making great plays, right? When you're talking to players, you're going, do you really want to have fun out here? Then let's get good, right? Because when we walk away after a win or a great play or a great hit or whatever, you not only enjoyed that experience, but you know where that came from. You made that play on the shoulders of somebody hitting you 1,000 ground balls until you were really good. So you figured out a way to make it fun. You didn't go after the fun. You went after the things that generate that.
You know, one of the things that I'll take away from this nice run we've had here is the same thing I took away the very first week that I got an opportunity to listen to the Energized Approach. When you ask people, what does that look like? To me, that is the end all be all for this approach. You know, what does it look like? And I revert all the way back, and you just brought this out of me, so I hope you don't mind if I share
Please do, please.
To my press conference. And I had 11 of my players in a room, and I said, what is it that you guys want from this change? What is it? And to the man, 10 of the 11 said, we want to win a conference championship. Great. One guy said, I want to get drafted. I said, well, I appreciate your selfishness, and I'm all for it. Let's get you drafted. And then I said, hey, what does that look like? And the blank stares I got back told me that, I'm in for some work here. And it doesn't matter, as the players change, the blank stare is still there. So from my perspective, I got to do a better job of framing that photograph for them to show them what it is that it looks like. We have had some great plays. We've had some great moments. We've had some great wins. Now, do they realize that those products were based off of how we practiced or what we did? And, in your world, in the professional world, same thing happens. Businesses have had great sales. Businesses have had great presentations. Businesses have solved great problems. Well, what and how did they get there? Well, they visualized what it looked like, and then they went after it, and they did it with inclusion, accountability, respect, recognition, and on down the road of the Energized Approach. And I like to think that my coaching and my players are works in progress, and that we always have the need to improve. But for me, taking away that little simple thing, what does it look like, and what are we lacking, has been the key component for me that I'll take away from the Energized Approach's presentation this spring.
Yeah, and it's wonderful. And I'm flattered that there are parts you can use, and I hope that's true for everybody. And the bottom line for me with all of this is that as human beings, we are constantly bumping into things that are either kind of on our side, beneficial for us, rub us the right way, are supportive of us or whatever, or we tend to run into things or interact with things that are on the opposite. They take energy or they have a negative influence. It is very rare that we are neutral as we move through the day, right? Because if you just walked up to somebody on the street and said, how's it going today? Very rarely people will say, I'm completely indifferent to this day. I'm just neutral on it. They're either going to go, oh my God, this happened and it was great, or this happened and it was awful and whatever. And those things make us a little bit like a pinball in a pinball game. And they're batting us around and doing whatever. And what the Energized Approach is saying, you can actually pick and influence the paddles that you bounce off of. And you can influence them and turn something that was potentially going to have a negative influence into something that potentially has a positive influence. And when you own that, there is a responsibility that goes with that. I mean, I looked at this, and for years, before I got married, I was single. I was renting. All I needed to do was be able to eat and have my clothes and whatever. And I would wake up in the morning and I would go, you have zero excuses for having a bad day, right? Nobody is bouncing off of you. So this is just you. Go choose those things that that you want. And if you get to the end of the day and go, I feel terrible, then I'm looking in the mirror and going, well, nice choices, right? I mean, that's now I've got more excuses now for having a bad day with married and kids, but I can still choose what those experiences, or at least attempt to influence that. And if we don't do that, we tend to be a victim of it. And we then complain about it and go, woe is me. And there are some things that are beyond our control, no kidding. But what I don't want is to be saying, woe is me, about those things that I could have an influence on, and didn't make that effort.
I hear you. I hear you, Michael. I really can't thank you enough for sharing with us. And, from my personal and selfish perspective, I just felt like this would be a good run to include in this podcast this spring. And I know Will seconds that emotion when we're sitting there going, forget about the business application or the sports application. I still believe that the energized approach is a common sense application for a lot of people. And I think you just epitomized it by saying what you did. We all have choices, and it's all what we choose. But then the EA gives you the tools to identify and go back and fix whatever ails you, and you can hone in on one of these 10 energy sources and find out if you're not hitting on it with all 8 cylinders. And if you're not, fix it, and it will change your outlook. It will change your life. And I just can't thank you enough for sharing it with me, Will, and our audience from the personal perspective that you did.
Well, and it's been absolutely a pleasure, and I greatly appreciate it. And to just wrap it up, I would just say, to your point, anytime something happens, we either can look at it and go, that was awful, or that was good. If it was awful and we just walk away from it, we're at risk of that happening again. If it was wonderful and we just walk away from it, we risk not being able to recreate it because we didn't capture that moment and go, I know exactly what was present there, what energy sources were present. I'm going to go get that again because I liked that. So again, it has been an absolutely wonderful ride. I'm so impressed with what you're doing over there in this, both with your team and with this podcast, and honored to be a part of it, my friend.
We'll figure something out for year 2. But until then, Michael, be safe, be kind, and thank you very much for joining us this year in our initial offering of Fast and Hard. Thanks very much.
You bet. Take care.
Peace, brother. Ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for Fast and Hard for the spring of 2022. 13 editions, 13 issues. Hope you've enjoyed it as much as Will and I have putting it together. I'd like to thank all of our guests that have come on, and certainly all of the sponsors that kept our doors open this year and allowed us to get on a number of the platforms. Capital Seafood, Chris Russ, Advanced Collision, thank you guys very much. You're very kind to have supported us throughout this journey. Will, any parting thoughts?
I just want to say a big thank you to everyone for listening, and even if you're only able to listen for part of it, just even being able to see that someone's listening, just it means the world to me, spending hours editing these things together. And I could not be happier with how this has turned out, and I am grateful for the opportunity to even been able to do something like this. I never thought of having a podcast at all, and when I was approached with this idea, I said sure, why not? I had no podcast experience, and I don't think I did too bad.
Not whatsoever. It was great having you as my sidekick. I look forward to the next time that we sit down and cross the desk from one another, and we'll do this again, promise. Ladies and gentlemen, until we get together, have a wonderful summer. It's been a great spring. We'll talk to you soon. Be good, do good, and always remember, be the change that you want to be, that you want to see. I'm going to close it with this little final thought. Want to wish you an especially prosperous 2022. Let us not forget, even in the tough times, why we are here. So Will and I leave you with this message. Today is a new day. Embrace kindness. Practice compassion. Offer hope. Work for the common good. Love well. And most of all, be the change you want to see in the world. Until we talk and meet again. Goodbye.